As a state, you have assisted in the creation or preservation of 38,000 units in more than 1,900 projects. The Trust Fund has done an excellent job of leveraging its funds to create a portfolio worth billions of dollars and making billions of dollars of housing assets in our communities. These investments are committed to continue to serve these communities and households for a minimum of 40 to 50 years.
Housing that is affordable for 50 years for people with low incomes in local communities. This is a pretty good deal.
And state funding is critical to leveraging other capital funds required to build such housing. No one source can build projects in today's environment. Each development which serves households below 50% of median income requires multiple funding sources. Without this leverage, most, if not all, affordable housing projects across the state will not be built. And this is particularly true in communities which do not have the capacity to have their own housing levy or separate fund.
Leveraging is a word that you hear a lot, but let me put it in real terms. If you're in a small or moderate-sized community and there's a housing project that gets $2 million from the Housing Trust Fund, that will leverage a project the size of $10 million. $10 million of community development investment. So for communities, this is a critical tool, particularly in these times.
There is no better use of capital dollars, than the creation of jobs through the Housing Trust Fund.
I'm the Housing Project Coordinator with the Washington State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. One of the key pieces that we are working on this legislative session is the Fair Tenant Screening Act, because it is one of those pieces that will help survivors of domestic violence get into permanent housing. It lets landlords know that they cannot include the identity or the fact that a survivor might have a protection order.
The Fair Tenant Screening Act will help those who have been needlessly brought through eviction court to avoid a cycle of housing instability. Currently, even if a tenant prevails or if the eviction is withdrawn, screening reports still reflect the tenant's name associated with the eviction proceeding. This is good for no one.
Screening reports will typically contain criminal records, eviction records, and a copy of your credit report.
I applied at 5 different apartments and paid a total amount of $115 in fees. I was turned down at the first 4. I was never given an honest answer as to why. The answers were very vague. I was not allowed to get a copy of the screening report, and I was also not given a receipt for the fee I paid.
Now, these screening reports generally run about $35, $40 average, but the problem isn't the individual cost, it's the repeated cost.
Having to pay, like it's been said, up to $40 3 or 4 times before they find suitable housing, safe suitable housing is a major impact.
This is a flawed and unfair practice. It's unfair to the people who can afford it the least.
Was told by a woman I was working with is, I don't think that I can continue to look for housing and be able to move out of the shelter if I have to keep paying for credit checks.
Place where someone lives, a residence. There's the physical structure within which one lives, such as a house, a dwelling place, with the social unit that occupies it, a household, an environment offering security and happiness.
The Home Security Fund and operations and maintenance financing are vital to statewide efforts to alleviate homelessness. We need new funding for these programs to address deficits and to continue to meet the need across the state.
Well, I started out and I was pregnant and homeless, and had a lot of, actually kind of really hit a barrier as far as finding a place to live. Didn't have many resources for where I could go or even shelters that I could go in. So after he was born, I was able to get into the Pathways for Wood Shelter and in Linwood, and went through their program and was there for about 3 months, and then went to their transitional housing where we stayed for a year, and they really worked with us on finding budgets, working with trying to figure out how to live on a smaller income that was sustainable. And after working their program for a year, then I got my Section 8 voucher. I mean, I know I'm not the only one out there that was homeless and couldn't find a home. I know the barriers that burdened me in finding housing has to be the same case for other people. You know, we're normal people. I'm a good mom with a really great kid who just wants to have a normal life. And unfortunately, you know, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it does allow you to have a house and food and childcare. And I work hard to support my son, but if I didn't have the help I have, I wouldn't be able to make it. I'd be homeless again, and I don't want to put him through that.
Good to be on the road back home again. It's good to be on the road back home again.
In Nevada, what we devised is a system of mandatory mediation for the homeowner, and its elements are these. The lender is required to attend a mediation in person if requested by the homeowner. The lender is required to produce the documents showing they actually own the loan. Third, the lender is required to participate in the mediation in good faith and to send somebody to the mediation with authority to renegotiate the loan.
Well, my story started in August of 2007, I believe it was, and that was the day, a horrible day, my husband let me know that he was laid off. We had purchased our home a couple years before that. We didn't buy above our means. We could afford what we had.
Foreclosures are affecting people across the income spectrum. We're seeing people who've gone through their retirement and their savings in order to try to save their homes and avoid foreclosure.
Generally contacted the bank, I would say probably every other week. There were times it was every week and sometimes every other week. We did go 3 weeks one time and it got scary, and that's when we called and found out there was big issues. So we always called once a week, never talking to the same person. And that's real frustrating because nobody knows your story.
Homeowners are routinely reporting that they're experiencing high levels of frustration, they're finding the process very demoralizing, and often even feeling that it's completely futile.
Contacting the bank was very interesting. Every time we called, it was a new person. We'd have to tell our story each time. And they said, well, you didn't send these documents and you need to fill out this form. Well, we did that. Well, you didn't do that because we don't have any logging. I mean, and they just kept going on. Well, if you don't turn these documents in, you're going to lose your home and we're going to start a foreclosure process. But we sent them in. We had proof. We had FedEx, and we sent our documents by fax, but they didn't have it.
They're not able to contact their lenders. If they are, they're getting inconsistent information. They can't get a hold of somebody with any kind of decision-making authority.
Owners seek relief. They're looking for loan modifications, short sales, and resolutions instead of foreclosure.
So what we're doing differently, we're really beginning this in our state, and I see us doing more and more of it, is we're more quickly identifying the needs. So we're creating more systems that help say, let's understand why you got here, and then let's come up with a solution that will work best for you and your families.
My personal story isn't extraordinary. In fact, it's very ordinary. So ordinary that it's happening to thousands of folks in Washington every day.
It's crazy. I've been homeless, uphill, downhill battle for my life. Even as a child, me and my mom and my sister were homeless, and lived in cars and, things where you're not supposed to be living.
My wages weren't enough to pay rent, let alone the myriad of expenses that come with raising a family. And so we couldn't stay in our apartment. And I just can't explain to you adequately the emotions that a parent feels. They can't provide a safe and decent home for their children. I was frightened, I was overwhelmed, and I was devastated. We were homeless.
Lived with a lot of friends, bounced around a lot. I was like 4 places in a week, and it just wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't succeeding in anything I wanted to do. I wasn't really taking care of myself, so therefore I couldn't really take care of my kid. And
we had a short stay in emergency housing. Since I didn't have to pay rent or utilities there, I was able to save my wages, and we were blessed with the opportunity to rent a single wide trailer. And although it was cramped, it was hot in the summer and chilly in the winter, it was affordable housing, and we could begin rebuilding our lives.
When you get a place and it's yours and you don't have to worry about where am I going to sleep next or whose car do I have to borrow or this, that, and the other, you have a different outlook on your life. You have more confidence to go out and find a job or to go sign up for school, to do something better with yourself because you have somewhere stable for the time.
The deck is stacked against low-income folks. There is not one county in the United States where a one-bedroom unit at fair market rate is affordable to someone working full-time at minimum wage. It does not take a cataclysmic event to cause a family or an individual to become homeless. All it takes is one bad day with that one expense you can't meet. And then the domino effect begins there, and it often ends with homelessness. Homeless people are simply people who have run out of options, and they need a chance to begin again, a chance to survive, and the opportunity to thrive.
Her made it clear today she does not like her own budget and says it is not moral.
Disability Lifeline, eliminated in your budget. Where do you think those people will go? What's going to happen to those folks?
Many of them will be homeless, Robert. This is their only source of income.
Advocacy is how we change the political calculations of elected officials and make sure that their priorities reflect our values. That's why we're here.
Woo, you sure gotta climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington. Well, I wonder who that sad little scrap of paper is.
I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee, but I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will, but today I am still just a bill.
Gee, Bill, you certainly have a lot of patience and courage.
Well, I got this far. When I started, I wasn't even a bill. I was just an idea. Some folks back home decided they wanted a law passed.